Your favorite film is awful.
Hello, and welcome to Your Favourite Film is Awful, the show where we take your favourite films and defend them against negative reviews. As always, I'm with Charlie. Say hello, Charlie.
How you doing, my man?
And special guest, we've got Sean again. Hello, Sean.
Hi, it's me, Sean again.
It is you. That's your full name. That's the title. Sean again.
Last name again, first name Sean.
Stirred, not shaken.
Yeah.
How you guys
Sean
been?
Grimsley
What have you been up
films.
to? Exactly, Sean
you
Grimsley
know,
films.
Sean Grimsley film. Oh, actually, do you know what? Hang on, wait 1 second. Where is it?
Oh.
I'm stepping out to do this because this is too good. Hang on, wait. Keep the people entertained.
Fantastic.
Charlie, what have you been up to? Real quick.
What have I been up to? What have I been there?
Yeah, quick.
Right.
You don't know how long it's going to be.
Right, that is true. I haven't been up too much because it's lockdown and there's nothing much we can do at all other than watch movies. How about you?
Love the hat. Love the hat.
SG
Fantastic.
Films.
That's it. Rep it. Perfect.
On brand.
Fantastic.
On brand.
Don't even need to plug the socials. You've got it on your hat.
Oh dear me, that's staying on now for the whole thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah.
Sean, what have you been up to? Have you watched anything of interest of late?
I have been watching. What have I been watching? I have been checking out the US Office and going back. I've never actually seen it before, so doing a deep dive on that, and have plenty of time to get through that. I think I've done 6 seasons in about 3 weeks. So yeah, been doing that, and it is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. Believe the hype, because it is accurate.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's genius at a staggering level. It does everything that I love about the British show. It lets it retain its own sense of identity while having its own one, and it's just got the most. The reason that it works above anything else, though, it's got such a good heart. Like the heart of it is so beautiful and so pure. I'd say
the US Office is one of the few things that the US has taken from the UK and actually translated it to their audience successfully. Because I know you've got like Misfits, Skins, IT Crowd. I think there was a pilot for that. In-Betweeners. Oh my god, did you see? But US Office, like to the point where if you search for The Office now, you're going to get the US Office before you even see Hyde nor Hair of the UK Office. Yeah, and
it totally earns it as well. Like I don't want to say one's better than the other. I don't think it's fair to say that, but I think that they're both staggering levels of genius in their own right.
That's
Very
exciting
true.
because I'm obviously, as you know, Sean, I'm a massive fan of the UK Office.
Oh, we know.
And And the reason I haven't watched the US one is just because I'm like, what's the point? It's so perfect, the UK Office. Why do I watch it? But what I've heard is, you have the first season that's supposed to be very similar to the UK one, and then it turns into its own show, and that intrigues me, and that makes me want to watch it because I think if they could take it and make it their own, because the humor's so different. Like you can't necessarily do that. The UK humor in the US, it doesn't quite translate. So I mean,
with only 2 seasons,
do some things.
Yeah, I mean, with only 2 seasons. You could make the argument that you can't even do the UK humour in the UK.
I guess so. Although I feel like it ends pretty perfectly, though. I don't know about how do you feel, Sean? But...
I do, yeah. I kind of disregard the movie. It ends where the show ends.
Yes, exactly.
When Stephen Merchant stopped working on it, that's when that's kind of what the US Office is. Everything that Ricky Gervais did after The Office with that character, he did without Stephen Merchant. And for me, it became too cruel. And I think Stephen Merchant really brought a lot of heart to The Office and really I imagine that Steve Merchant was probably more responsible for the love story, of Tim in that first in the UK Office. And without him, Ricky Gervais can, I think, lose a little bit of the heart, whereas the US Office is understands the Stephen Merchant way of thinking a little bit more than the Ricky Gervais, I think.
Interesting. So is it a bit more wholesome? It seems
it is, but don't let that put you off. Not in that it's not saccharine in any way. I don't think anyway.
Well,
in
yeah,
a
it's
similar way
just
to like how you'd say like other sitcoms like Community or something are like quite wholesome as well, even though they.
Parks and
That's right.
Rec. Parks and Rec obviously
Parks and
was
Rec, okay.
is I mean it's by the same team. It was originally supposed to be a spin-off of the US office. Leslie Knope was supposed to be in the US office and then they were going to spin it off from there. It just never happened that way. But if you like Parks and Rec, it is very, very like it's the same tone as the US office.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, man, I think you'll really dig it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just want to hop in just to let the people know. If you watched our top 10 video or listened to the podcast, I just want to say now, it's been, 2 weeks since that episode came out? My list has already changed. Because we have the Yafir Awards coming out, I've had to watch, like, the nominations. The list has changed. I'm not restating what the list is, because that would have to be another hour of my life sorting it into a list. But it has changed. Yesterday I watched Richard Jewell, Promising Young Woman. Oh God, what else? We Can Be Heroes and Capone. And apart from We Can Be Heroes, which has its flaws but makes sense for the category it's in, which is Uncooked Award, the other 4 films are really, really good. And just want to recommend them now. Very quickly.
I'm so glad you brought
episode.
that up. Because I also watched Richard Jewell this week, and Sean is one of the people that recommended me I watch it, so this is perfect.
Yeah. What a great movie, huh?
It
Brilliant.
is.
It's one of my favourite Clint Eastwood movies since like Gran Torino, maybe even earlier. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I think I was quite surprised at how, I don't know, kind of relevant it is, particularly with like cancel culture and stuff. I just really enjoyed it. I thought the performance from... do you know what? I really need to learn this actor's name. The guy who plays
Paul
Richard
Walter
Jewell.
Hauser.
He is phenomenal. He's
So
also
good.
He's in Cobra Kai, and he has one of the funniest roles in it as well. He's just so good. Like everything he's been in, like Black Klansman. I know he kind of plays that type, but like he's just so perfect, and he just understands the comedic timing of things. But yeah, I was really blown away. So I'm glad you liked that as well, Luke, because I think it would definitely have been, if we'd done our top 10 now, it probably would have pushed a few films out.
It felt like I remember watching. I went to see it at the cinema where it didn't do very well. It flopped pretty hard, unfortunately. And I remember during watching it, I was sat there thinking, this is the kind of film that doesn't really get made anymore. This is like a proper adult kind of thriller, but like I was captivated and hooked, and I didn't know whether he did it or not. And that was that was the thing for me. And I'm not going to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it that might be listening to this podcast. I had no idea, and I think the film played it that way, regardless of if they kind of thought the audience knew or not. And it works so perfectly for me.
Yes, 100%. I couldn't agree more. I just thought the cast from top to bottom was phenomenal. Like John Hamm, Olivia Wilde, all brilliant in it.
Kathy
it's hard,
Bates.
obviously, I could go into detail of certain things that I like, but I don't want to spoil it. It's one of those I'd rather people just like watched it clean.
Just don't look
Plus,
into it.
Don't go into it now, because we've got to talk about it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
We'll make a guest appearance on the Yafir Awards.
As Richard Jewell.
You
Love
couldn't
it.
be more opposite in like body type.
Yeah.
you couldn't be any more miscast as Richard Jewell.
Time to eat.
British, tall, skinny man.
Time to eat. Slim. Let's say slim. Let's not say skinny.
Oh, slim. Sorry, not skinny, but you know what I mean.
Nah, it's okay. You know, I have.
No. You make Slender
I don't mean
Man
skinny,
a run
man.
for his nummy.
I'm just jealous, bro. I'm jealous that I eat a chip and I put on like a stone.
Oh, well, it's
You can eat what you
the.
want.
It does allow me to not wear a lot of clothes, wearing a nice t-shirt, expose the arm, but I took my jumper off earlier because I started to feel the heat.
Hey, I'm feeling the heat right now. Actually, I should probably take this off.
Is it too much
It
heat
is
for you,
quite warm.
Charlie?
Yeah. So anyway, Melissa McCarthy's the heat.
Your favourite film is awful. Correct. Completed. Completed it, mate. Completed it.
Completed it. Come next week where we do Spy, starring Jason Statham.
Oh. Jason Statham is the only good thing in that movie.
I've not actually seen it, to be fair.
Oh,
so
it's
I
worth
can't
it just for Jason Statham.
But no, not that Heat. We're not doing that Heat. So continuing on with our fan-submitted films, this one comes from both Charlie K, who came on before in one of the previous episodes, and also Sean, and that's why he's here. Now, because we've changed it a little bit since you were last on, Sean, because it's just been me and Charlie. We have had Charlie do all of the plot synopses. However, because this is the second time we've had two people, we're going to do it the way we did it last time. So, Matt is not here, but Matt introduced this idea. Charlie and Sean, could you together tell us the plot of Heat by finishing each other's sentences?
Sandwiches.
Wow.
Oh.
Damn.
Too slow. Sean, would you like to go first as you are the guest?
Heat is a movie
About fucking professionals. Because that's what Michael Mann does. He makes movies about professionals, regardless if they're criminals or not.
and they are criminals, but they're also not criminals in this movie because some of them are cops.
And their lives are actually quite similar to each other. And that is played through the theme of the movie, where De Niro and Al Pacino's characters
are parallel opposites in job description, but exact identicals in terms of focus.
Also, Val Kilmer
is in it.
Isn't it?
Oh, this is
also Tom.
Been shooting Batman Forever.
Also, Tom Sizemore is in it.
Natalie Portman.
She's in it. She's little. She's in it.
She's little.
Between Leon and Star Wars.
She made Heat.
Oh dear.
Oh, that was perfect.
Brilliant.
That was a very Matt Whittle moment. He's always with us in spirit.
He's always with us in spirit. Well, he literally is with me right now in this flat. So
is he under the desk?
Yeah, he's under it. You know, he can't resist being on a podcast.
I'm crying a little bit. That was brilliant. However, as always, somehow, I don't know how, I give you ample opportunity all the time, and this has got to be like, how many episodes are we in now? And you missed the fundamentals, the basic gist of this entire film, which of course Irish Pirate will inform you with a 1-star review explaining quite clearly: pretentious, melodramatic horse shit.
Is he talking about
And
the
that's
podcast?
it. That's the review. You get 3 words.
So,
man.
is it a review for the podcast or Heat?
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
No, this is gold. What are you on about?
Your favourite film is Awful is Awful.
What were
Any
the 3 words?
argument?
What were the 3 words again? Give them to us again.
Pretentious, melodramatic, horse shit.
Wow. I'm not sure how it's pretentious.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say that. I think it's far from pretentious, really. I think it's very quite grounded in reality.
Yeah.
So I find it weird that
It's really really character based.
super character based. Like the whole that I mean, I was listening to the director's commentary, and all that Michael Mann was speaking about was like every little detail that he researched into these characters, and like he knew the ins and outs of what it was like to be a cop and a criminal in LA. Like it was, and I think that shows in the film. Do you not agree, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, he did the research, right? And he worked with LAPD officers, and like the character that De Niro plays is based on a real person, right? So like it's grounded in a reality. I don't know. I'm not sure how it's pretentious. If he was a man of more words, we might be able to get to the core of that. But yeah, if there's like fair enough. He thinks it's a 1-star film, but I mean, he is wrong. But I don't know where he's got pretentious from. I'm not sure about that.
No. What about melodramatic?
I can appreciate that as a review from the perspective of Al Pacino's performance.
Yeah.
Right. See, I've 180'd on it. 180'd on it. 180'd. Not that I disliked it before, because obviously I love it's Al Pacino. He does what he does. But if you listen to Michael Mann talk about him in the commentary and me just watching it myself, like this time around, I noticed that. Well, what Michael Mann said was that he studied like these cops and how they work, particularly when you look at the scene with the informant and how he goes, crazy. What's that line he says when he's talking to the informant? He says something like,
"And she's got a great ass."
That's later on. We're definitely gonna get to that. Yeah. We're definitely going.
I think the first time it's just a lot of "Give it to me."
Yeah, he's like, "Give it to me." And he's going crazy. That whole scene with the informant and that. But the whole reason why he does that and why he acts like that is because Michael Mann was saying that informants are very they will never quite tell you the truth because they're dropping someone in that benefits them whilst also not dropping in someone else and blah 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 blah. So he said a lot of cops, what they'll do is they'll actually act a bit wild. They'll go a bit mad, like how he does, to sort of see how they react and judge by their reaction, because the way they will react to that scenario will tell them more about if they're lying or not, or if they know more than what they're giving off. And then watching it through that lens has made me see that performance like so differently. And it really quite fits. But yeah,
I read somewhere, and I don't know if there's a grain of truth to it, that he was playing the role as if he was on cocaine, and he kept doing snorts of cocaine.
Yeah, that's always. I think that's based on like there was an earlier draft of it where he was a coke addict.
Okay.
And so like even though that got written out of the script, Pacino kind of kept it in. But I think it's one of the. I personally think it's one of his definitive performances, and I think why I really really enjoy it is that that's the kind of performance that you expect from a villain in a film, not from your kind of like hero protagonist, because you've got a dual protagonist, but I wouldn't argue that either of them are the bad guy.
Well, that's a very good point, because the one that is typically the bad guy, who is the criminal, is De Niro, and he's quite the opposite. He kind of plays like your traditional hero type in terms of very reserved, keeps everything to himself, that kind of silent man with no name type almost. Very efficient at what he does, never drops a beat, never looks uncool. Whereas then you have like the other, the Al Pacino, the villain. Well, the villain usually is the one that like you said, Sean, is the one that's more theatric. Who's he's being over the top and on purpose, because he's usually they got big egos or they're trying to create big characters and make you like them through how charismatic they are. But it's interesting, like you pointed that out, because I didn't think about that. Typically, I know they're both the flip side of the coin, and you could root for either of them, I guess. It's interesting that he's the one, even though he's the cop, the traditional good guy, is the one that's given the more over the top performance. I wonder if that was something that was intentional.
Well, yeah, even in the smaller moments, because you have the bit with De Niro and his criminal friends when he knows that they're being watched, and they have that little meeting on the car park, and it's just like, hey, if anyone wants to go, just go. It's not worth your lives. If you don't need this money, feel free to leave. If I was you, I would actually leave, but I need this money. Sort of thing, which you'd see from a hero like banding together, being like, the odds are terrible, the odds are against us, but we're the only ones that can do this. Everyone stand up in a circle and say they'll do it.
Yeah.
I think you've got to the core of why this film works. So like I rewatched this quite recently to re-solidify it in my mind as one of the best movies ever made, period. And I told my girlfriend to watch it after I seen it, because I couldn't stop talking about it, and she watched it, and like she texts me quite a lot during the day, and she wasn't texting back, and I was like, oh, she's maybe she's died. But turns out she was just watching Heat. which means that she did die, but she went to heaven. Michael Mann Heaven. And she just texted me and was just like, that is one of the best movies I think I've ever seen. And we were talking about why. And I think the reason that it works is it's so carefully constructed as two characters who are almost identical in their focus and commitment to their work. The film is almost a study of how men identify themselves as their profession, really, but how on opposite sides of the spectrum of good and bad. And the whole movie shows the De Niro character, who in terms of the cops versus robbers is the robber, but you see sympathetic sides to him. You see his wants and his desires based on the choices that he's made, and you want him to get those things. So, but you also see that from Pacino in the typical good guy sense. So you've got these two lead characters. It's the bad guy that you want to win, and it's the good guy that you want to win. And as a result, the movie is constantly just every scene. It doesn't matter what's happening. You as the audience member are completely winning, because everything that's playing out on the screen is you want everybody to win, but you know it can't happen that way. And yet somehow, by the time you get to that resolution, it's perfect. Like, it is the right ending.
Yep, I 100% agree. And I think that is all solidified with the character, the ex-convict who works in the diner. Because, like what you said, the conflict is that we know, hold on a minute, we've seen heist movies before. We know that this is the big heist, they're leading up to it. Something's probably going to go wrong. We know that's going to happen. And then we have the tension of, this guy's trying so hard to be clean. And now he's about to go on this heist that we're pretty sure might go wrong, because the big heist at the end of movies goes wrong. So there's a tension in that. And then obviously to see that character get killed there's something so tragic about it. And that's something that solidifies the whole theme kind of the movie to me. These people, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of gives, I think in the commentary, he was saying about Al Pacino's character and how he, even though he's seen all these horrible things, he always tries to see from their perspective. Like, no matter who they are, he tries to see, like, where they come from and, like, the issues of, like, and how they become the person they are.
Interesting. Would you like a review from December 15th, 1995? A review.
Cool. Travel back in time.
In time with Janet Maslin. This is a little bit of an
Again,
extract.
didn't we have Janet on the 7 podcast?
We did. Brilliant. Indeed. Well,
long time listener, long time caller.
So this is a little extract from her review. But 3 hours is a long time. It's long enough to shape a Godfather caliber crime story, or long enough for an overly polished veneer to wear thin. And as Heat progresses, its sensational looks pale beside storytelling weaknesses that expose the more soulless aspects of this cat and mouse crime tale. Extraordinary actors, clever settings, a maze of a plot, and a screenplay with nearly 70 speaking roles. Don't change the fact that Heat is fundamentally hollow and its characters haven't much to say. End of extract.
Well, I got to be honest with you here. Prior to the previous bad review, which was only 3 words, I'm going to delve into this one. That's the first time I've ever heard someone say they don't like Heat. So, so excuse me if it's just taken me a moment to process, but
we're not even that, Sean. Before I cut you up quickly, but this is the same lady that's the same thing about 7 that come out in the same year. So yeah, wow. I just don't think we agree. Yeah.
Wow. I'll tackle the first thing. Fundamentally, obviously, I'm here to disagree with these reviews, so I'm disagreeing with it. Fundamentally, the pacing of this film is incredible, and it's as far as I'm concerned, this film is so close to perfect that my problem with it is that it's still 10 minutes too short.
Too
Like,
short.
it's-
Fantastic.
yeah,
Too short.
Yeah,
You
it's
wanted
so,
it that full 3-hour mark.
I need that. Here's like, it's so perfect that it's the things that are wrong with it are minor, but like it's such. How can I explain? Right, Charlie once asked me, right, when it comes to screenwriting, people always say, how do you balance character and plot? Like, what's the difference? How do you do that? Watch Heat, because this movie, every moment of that plot is hinged on all of those characters and you getting to know those characters as richly as possible for the audience to engage with. The one character, in fact, the two characters that don't get quite enough service to that ideal in this movie, and the reason that the movie is 10 minutes too short for me, is the Natalie Portman character needs one extra scene.
Yes.
And so does the Amy Brenneman character, the person that is falling in love with De Niro and De Niro falls in love with her. They're the only two characters whose intrinsic moments in the plot, we don't know quite as much about their characters or what's going on with them. We don't get quite as much rich detail.
Yeah, you're
that
right.
when the stuff happens with them, that feels a bit plotty, as opposed to
I don't
naturally. Yeah. And as a result, it only emphasizes the fact that this is such an incredibly masculine film.
Oh yeah.
It's because it's a film that is concerned with how men construct their identity surrounding their work, and everything else that falls by the wayside as a result of that. I think it's really, really interesting that the one female character that does get enough screen time and that plays out perfectly for is Ashley Judd. And that comes full circle. The decisions that she makes all the way through the film, you understand why she makes them, and you're on side with her, and it's heartbreaking. And it's like, the film's got like so many iconic scenes, and they're all character driven. And but yeah, it's just those two things that I think are just missing from that film for it to be a perfect 10 out of 10. But it's a solid 9.8.
See, I still think it's perfect. Even though I do agree, but I think every movie has those little things. And yeah, I would agree. I think her character is brilliant. I love the dynamic with Val Kilmer. And I just love that. Yeah, I love the line when he's like, when De Niro, that whole scene when De Niro is speaking to him when he turns up in his house after they had an argument, and he's like, well, come on, like, what are we doing here? Like, you need to sort yourself out, sort of thing. What are you doing? And like, we'll do this job and you can get away or whatever. And he says, oh no, like the sun rises and sets with her, man. Like, and that's such a good line, because like, for all of Kilmer's like the character, I can't remember the character's name. Val Kilmer's character, he's
Chris.
got a gambling addiction. Chris, for all of his like flaws in terms of, he seems like he genuinely cares for her, and she genuinely cares for him, but she just can't deal with this addiction he has, this gambling problem. I mean, because you got one he's obviously some sort of adrenaline junkie. You got one hand, he's robbing banks for big cash, and then he's spunking it all gambling, and I just think that line, just, I don't know, there's something so painful about it, because it just says that he can't help himself almost. And like, you get that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's that one line, and I've just got that from that, and I just think that's the genius in the writing of this film. And I was actually quite surprised that he just wrote it on his own, Michael Mann. There was no, because I just think there's so many characters to juggle and balance, and every character, I feel like, whether they have a couple of lines or a few lines, you understand who they are. And obviously that's up to him in terms of getting those performances, and I think a lot of that comes down to obviously De Niro's performance. He adds a lot to that role, not that it wasn't already there on the page, but yeah, I just find that a lot of the characters, like, even if they're not in it that long, you understand them, and they don't feel particularly too tropey, with maybe the exception of Ted Levine's character, who's obviously the nutcase sort of thing. But yeah,
no, Ted Levine plays the cop, plays the other cop. It's the guy that plays. Yeah, but he looks like Waingro.
Yes, he does
right?
look like Waingro.
He does.
Sorry, I always get confused.
I do this all the time. The guy that played Ted Levine was brought onto the film he was offered Waingro, but he thought it was too similar to Buffalo Bill, so he was like, "Can I be one of the good guys?" but they look so alike.
No, do you know what? I actually, until you just said that, I was like, oh damn, that's not. I always forget it's not him. Like every time, I'm like, they just look so. He does look so similar. That's amazing.
But the guy that plays Waingro, I can't remember the actor's name because unfortunately, and I don't know how this happened. After this, he kind of just faded into obscurity, which is crazy to me because in my head, he's one of the most iconic villains in a movie ever.
But then that's the double sword of that sort of role, is that you do such a good job. They audition you and they only see you as that one role. I mean, the big one there would be Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill struggled until he did voice acting work and got the Joker. And now he's both of those characters.
Yeah, it's true. Worked out well for him. But what's interesting about the Waingro guy, just as a little aside, he ended up going to prison a few years later. It wasn't for anything horrible. It was like insurance fraud or something like that.
Yeah. It always is.
And everyone in prison called him Waingro.
Of course they would. That's amazing. That's so good.
So I thought that was
talking about Waingro is just reminded me of, like, again, you talking about the character and the plot and how they're exactly entwined in this movie. Like they completely push the other, and that is all told alone through the scene where after they've done that first heist and Waingro shoots the cops. And then they go into that restaurant, and immediately they're like, we just take him out because that's not how we deal with things. Like, we're professionals. He's done that. Like he's got to go. And like just the way that De Niro carries himself in that scene, and I forgot the actor's name. I'm terrible today. The actor's name who's in Natural Born Killers and True Romance.
Tom Sizemore.
Tom Sizemore. That's it. Tom Sizemore. He when he just gives that little look to the guy sitting in the restaurant who notices Waingro take a little punch, like whacked on the side.
Yeah, it's the little
all these little moments and none of it's dialogue really, and that you get this little scene of them trying to take him out, and then he's like trying to slither away from them, and but all of that is just telling you everything, and it's setting up the plot for the rest of the movie at the same time. And it's also telling you about each individual character that are involved in the heist. And I just think it's actually absolutely genius while I was watching it. When I was listening to the commentary, Michael Mann was saying that he see him like a contagion. Like, as soon as he's gone, he's like infected the rest of their decisions and what they do. Because obviously later on, he's part of the reason why it all goes tits up for him. And I just thought it was interesting that he saw him like that.
It's not even that. It's his survival fucks it up. Like, it's nothing else. It's just he survived because he doesn't do that. I think he kills one guy. He kills thingy in his penthouse.
He kills the lady as well, doesn't he?
Who are you talking about killing someone? Sorry, who's killing who?
Waingro. He kills the couple, the bloke, the guy that used to be on the team, but then calls up and is like, "I'm burned. I can't get rid of these cops."
Yeah, and
he kills him and his.
He kills a young teenage prostitute.
Yes.
Yes.
In the middle of the film, and that is a great scene because it's the Buffalo Bill scene essentially, and that's how you know he's the principal bad guy. Because he's the only one in the movie that does something genuinely evil. Now, I know that, like the other guys shoot and could hit innocent bystanders or anything like that. They kind of write that off as, well, that's part of the job. And somehow that does translate because that can happen with cops as well. The cops are shooting just as violently.
Yeah.
And so, like, the only person that kills people without a moral compass is Waingro, so you know that he's the villain, and it's such a great idea that it gives the audience something to unite about. So the kind of villain, the antagonist of the protagonist, you're on his side as well. It's fucking brilliant. Can I swear? I don't know. I just did.
You can swear.
It is fucking brilliant. I so agree.
I don't think I was ever on Waingro's side.
Sorry, I meant on De Niro's side. So, okay,
good.
No, we're never...
Good clarity.
Waingro's the only...
Yeah.
Waingro's the one that's like the most pure evil. The others, they kind of tear the line, don't they?
Yes.
Or you can root for them more. You understand why they make those decisions more than obviously Wayne Grove is he's just a nutter, isn't he? And that's why they want to take him out, isn't it? Because he can't be reasoned with. He's not someone that, he's too mad. He's going to jeopardize how professional they are. Because it's not about the killing. It's not about the thrill for them. It's about the efficiency, isn't it?
Wayne Grove, it's like De Niro and Pacino are the cat and the mouse, and both the cat and the mouse want to put an end to the snake, which is Wayne Grove.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's cool. Definitely, I like the opening, how it opens. In general, I just love that you're seeing all these different stories, and you're not quite sure what's going on, and I think that's what it keeps you on edge, because you're like, that guy got off a train, and now he's in the ambulance, like, and is he an ambulance driver? And then you're seeing another guy at construction work, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, what's going on? And all of a sudden, then they put the hockey masks on, and you're like, oh, okay, these are gonna do some dodgy stuff. Like you got
I don't think that was ever like hidden.
No, but not hidden. But just what I'm saying, like if you think about the juxtaposition of the images, you don't know anymore.
What, as in, if this was your first film ever?
No, but you're going in knowing what Heat's about, right? Whereas I'm thinking about it as if the first time I've seen it. What?
The only way what you're saying makes sense is if this is the first crime film you've watched.
Not really. Yeah. I'm talking about the director's. I'm talking about the director using these filmmaking tools to.
What you're saying from like an imagery point of view, it's nice to see these different stories, and then they come together very quickly to make the first crime. I think one of the positive reviews I read was like, this is the good version of Crash. It's like all those little stories that come together.
That's
exactly. So I get where you're coming from, but I disagree with your point that you wouldn't know that was happening.
I didn't say you wouldn't know. I'm just saying, like, you're putting the images together and you're thinking in your head, like, what's going on here? Like the way there's no dialogue in that. He's not sitting around.
Are you talking about like the full effect of how the cross-cutting kind of creates some tension because you're not entirely sure where all this is leading to?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm.
I think it's something. I was with Luke at the beginning. I was like, I'm not sure what you mean, but now I fully understand what you're saying, I agree with you. It was something my friend Aaron said recently when we were talking about Heat. He said like every part of the way that film works is what Christopher Nolan has based his entire career on.
Yeah. 100%. I've always seen like Nolan is like, he's like Michael Mann meets Kubrick, isn't he? Like, that's his kind of aesthetic that I feel like he's going for. Whereas obviously Fincher is the modern day Kubrick in my opinion, in terms of his approach to filmmaking. Is very similar in terms of his perfectionism. But yes, all I can see when I'm watching Heat is The Dark Knight and like Nolan's. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like everything about it, from the color grade to the way he shoots the city to the scope of it, like everything. I'm like, the cross cutting, the villain that you root, the kind of that you're also rooting for. Like like the Dark Knight is Joker's film above anything else, and so that it plays with audience expectation and desire very, very well as well. It's interesting. There was something you said earlier, Charlie, that I thought was interesting. But you're talking about addiction, and I think what's interesting about this film is that every single character seems to be addicted to something. Like De Niro's addicted to his job, Pacino's addicted to his job. Like like whatever Chris's addiction is with the gambling, it's his addiction to his woman that fuels the gambling. He's trying to satisfy her above anything else, and I think that's why the film is such an intense spectacle, is because you're watching all of these addicts make choices, and you're just like Tom Sizemore being the perfect example. We see this guy be a loving kid, but then at the point of the bank robbery, we see him pick up a kid as a hostage, and it's like, what do I do with this information? Yes.
And it's like, this is an addict. This is someone that you're supposed to care about and love, but they do some horrible things.
Yeah. And it's because he is an addict. He's another. De Niro says, like, I don't really want you on this job, and he's like, nah, I need to be there. And it's like, well, he's like, you have enough money stored away. It's because these guys, they like the thrill of it.
It's the next big hit.
yeah, and like, just to go back to that opening when I was talking about the cross cutting, I just love that, you know, you're putting everything together and you're getting everything kind of the way they, you know, the professionalism of these characters, you're getting that through the way they deal with the heist. But then the fact that afterwards you then get to see Al Pacino's character try and figure that out and almost like become the audience and almost figure them out as characters. Like he's like, why did that guy shoot him there? And he's like putting it all, like if you didn't quite get it the first time that these guys are professionals, he's telling you, but like not in an expositional way. It's I think it's like perfectly done. Like you understand all these characters are like pretty immediately. I just thought that was genius, particularly watching it that time.
I don't want to. I mean, I know we've only had 2 reviews, so maybe we should have one more. But I could talk about this movie for hours.
Yes, you can, but you're not going to. We're going to do this review, and then we're going to go into our chats. Where'd the review go that I was going to do? It's this one. It's a lighter one, I feel. This is from Michael M. It's a 1-star review. Very long for no reason and not that funny. 1 star for when Pacino says the ass thing. Try 22 Jump Street for a much more fully realized tale of cops, robbers, and everything in between.
I mean,
22 Jump Street.
First of all, why not 21 Jump Street? But
yeah. I need to know more. Like, please, I need to know more. Like,
yeah,
why
please.
22 specifically? Like, it's making me want to go back and watch 22 Jump Street. Like, is 22 Jump Street connected to Heat in any way? Like, I need to know. I need to know this.
Imagine if that's the shared universe.
Oh my god! Could you imagine?
I would pay good money to see that movie.
Yes. 21 Jump Street, directed by Michael Mann. Yes.
23 Jump Street.
23. Fantastic.
I mean, we've talked about the longevity thing before. Everyone's wrong about that. It's too short. But
Yep.
I can't remember anything else that the review said. This is the problem. I'm listening to it and I'm just getting infused. How is it only 1 star because of the ass? You know, it's like
that's at least 2.
What other movie? Yeah, that's at least 4. Come on.
Yeah.
She's
got a great ass.
And she's got a great ass, and your head's right up it.
Right up in it. So good.
But yeah,
improv line that, not in the script.
Ah. It's just that cocaine-fueled thing that was written out of the script.
Yeah, mate.
That's true.
Mm.
Another fact, actually, you know the opening, you know the train station at stop.
Yeah,
that's actually the last stop in Collateral.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, how
cool
fun!
is that?
Nice.
That's the first stop of Heat, last stop of Collateral.
But there's you know, this is how intricately made that film is. The first time you see Robert De Niro, he steps off that train, he looks over his shoulder before he faces you, and like that is it tells you everything you need to know about that character.
100%.
Everything.
And then when he uses his elbow, to press the door,
no fingerprints. Like, this guy is a professional. It works. Like, I would be remiss. We're quite a way into this, and we haven't even talked about the big shootout at length.
We haven't got to the good.
We haven't even like but it's the centerpiece of the movie. Like, every character thing builds up to that. That's the end of most movies, but the fallout from that is still just as interesting. Like, anyone that says this movie is too short doesn't understand why that sequence is iconic. Like, it is just everything. Like, every gun shootout you've ever seen since has been influenced by that one, and no one's topped it. No one's even come close.
No, not at all. I just love that that's the start of, obviously, that entire sort of third act of the movie, but it's a good chunk of the movie, and it's like the part where everything's going wrong, and the fact that you watch all of that, because ultimately, you know, that is what we go to see heist movies for. We go to watch everything go wrong. And the fact that, you know, you've had all this big build-up, we've got all these characters, and now you've got this whole bit where everything's going wrong, and it's the most epic shootout you've ever seen. And then you get the 2 guys that you're rooting for at the end have a standoff with each other, and you don't really quite know what's going to happen. Like, you don't really know. I mean, you've got a funny idea that maybe Al Pacino's going to, because, you know, we've seen these kind of movies before, but you're not 100% sure. And I just love that, and the fact there's a respect that they have for each other.
That's it.
That is what this movie is like all about. And what makes it special is that, because like you said, the flip side of the same coin.
It's the diner scene. They're literally they're both guys, and they'll probably order the exact they'll order the exact same dish, but it's they're on opposite sides of that bench. They do the same thing, but just on opposite sides. That scene is incredible, it's just incredible.
I think Mann had he set up 2 shots, so there's 2 cameras recording at the same time, because he was like, you got to think this is Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, 2 of the greatest actors of all time, and they're doing a dialogue scene together. He was like, there's no point me trying to do anything flashy. He was like, I'm sticking the camera there, I'm sticking the camera there, and they're gonna do their thing. He said, you literally can't move those cameras anymore, either way, because you'll see the other camera. He was like, we just kept it going and let them 2 do their thing, and that's, I think that's the time when you do it, when you have Al Pacino and De Niro across each other. That's when you shoot 2 angles and just let them.
Because it doesn't cut. It doesn't cut to a master wide other than the initial establishing shot. It just stays on them. It would be interesting to see who the last shot of that sequence is. I wonder if it ends on Pacino because he ends up being the victor at the end. I'd be curious just to see. To go back and study that. Apparently, De Niro. I was just going to say. Apparently, De Niro didn't want to rehearse that sequence. He's like, we shouldn't rehearse this. We should just go and do it. But also Michael Mann is also known for doing multiple takes. So I think he said the majority of that sequence is take 11.
Oh, nice. Brilliant. You back with us, Charlie?
Yeah, I froze for a bit there. I made that cut out. Typical.
I was going to say, what helps with freezing? A bit of heat.
Hey. But I'm out of water. And because of that, we're going to go into our reviews so we can finish. Sean, would you like to go first? What is your review of this film? I guess because it's your favourite, what's your recommendation for people to watch this film if they've got this far without watching the film?
Turn your phone off. You won't want to look at it, but turn your phone off. Sit down with a nice drink because you're gonna get thirsty. This is one of those few films I would say to people: look at that runtime and think, I haven't got 3 hours to watch a movie, and go, God, I wish I had 3 hours more, because that's what Heat is. It is the defining semi-film noir thriller drama. It's one of the finest American pictures ever made. It's hands down one of the best movies of the 90s, which is saying something. But it's also Michael Mann's definitive film. Yeah. So it's one of Pacino and De Niro's definitive films. It's one of Val Kilmer's definitive films. It's one of John Voight's definitive films, and he's not really in it that much. Yeah. If you look at the caliber of the talent involved and know that this is one of their definitive films, even just Pacino alone, it's worth the watch. But to have that much talent, to see a film that a script that is so intricate and so detailed, and yes, it's incredibly masculine, and it may fail the Bechdel test, but it's one of the films that is allowed to fail the Bechdel test, because it'd just be impossible not to appreciate the level of spectacle and artistry that is on display from every member of the crew.
100%. That's a phenomenal review.
Oh, thank you very much. And just 2 things. Spinotti's cinematography with the long lens is incredible, and the score is just that final bit. The final bit of music will bring me to my knees every time.
Yes.
Fair enough.
I usually listen to that song on repeat for a week after watching Heat. Every time I watch it, it's just so good.
Charlie, do you want to say what your thoughts and feelings are?
I'm a bit nervous following up that one, because that was very well put together there, Sean.
Just imagine everybody naked.
Do not. Don't do that. It's only us. It's just me and Sean. Don't imagine us naked, you strange pervert.
Please sign up for the Favorite Film is Awful OnlyFans.
Yeah, times are tough out there, guys.
Yeah.
If you want to see me and Luke do some freaky shit.
With their feet.
No.
Oh, oh no.
No. The OnlyFans is exactly the same. It's just we have our tops off. That's the only difference. We're expecting
Sold.
£20.
Amazing.
Love it. Charlie, back to you.
I agree with Sean. I think it's one of the best movies of the 90s. I think it's one of the great crime movies of all time. I think what I love about it is that, it's a heist movie, but it's a heist movie on such a magnitude, like just such a big scale. Like it feels like how Leone made the Westerns, how he made them big, and like he played with that, it's cinema, this is its own world. And I think Michael Mann captures that with the heist genre and the crime genre in Heat in a magical way. It's one of the best LA crime movies, and there's a lot of them that are great. It's one of the most, everyone's dad loves Heat. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone's like, like it's one of those movies where like you bring up and someone goes, "Cool, that's a film, isn't it? That's a film." But it's a classic, and it's a film that I always get surprised that it almost come out in the 90s, because it feels so classic. It feels like it come out in like the 70s, 80s, even though it does feel very much like a 90s movie. It's just so like. The scale, the characters, the way it's very like the grittiness of it, but also like the fact that everything feels like they're on a stakeout. Like everything is like you said, Sean, with those long lenses, everything feels like we're watching them just as much as the cops are watching these characters, and just the fact that the thought put into this movie, I think, is just phenomenal. From like every single frame, you understand who the characters are through their actions. No one's sitting around telling you, and like particularly for a movie that's 3 hours, it doesn't really take. There's not a lot of scenes of people talking unless they're the best scenes of the movie. And there's something I adore about that. The fact that it just absolutely flies by. The tension, the characters. I mean, it's just rich. I don't know what more I can say that we've already said. Yeah,
rich is the correct word. It's a masterpiece. It's rich. It's a rich text. It's the kind of thing, if you were trying to teach kids how to analyze things in school, for like analyzing books or think in an analytical way, it would be such a good place to start. And Lord knows they'd be engaged.
Yes, 100%.
Luke?
I think this film gave me Stockholm syndrome. Because it's okay. When I was a wee boy, I tried to watch this film and I couldn't. Turned it off. Boring. Garbage. This was even before I had a mobile phone, so I can't even blame technology for that. I just didn't like it. This time round, I started the film. The opening action scene got me into it. Then it slowed down and I got out of it, and then it was like a little roller coaster where I was never bored, but I was never fully engaged, apart from like a couple of scenes, like the diner scene and the big shootout, of course. Those being like, wow, amazing. It was a good film. It's not. I don't put it. I understand what it has done for cinema. What you guys have all said. Sean, actually, you reminded me of Dark Knight and that opening sequence, and of course, you've both spoken about Christopher Nolan, and I can like imagine scenes and be like, oh yeah, this bit and that bit are very similar. Like so of course you got the Dark Knight opening scene and then their relationship, but also Baby Driver, the shootout in that, where it's all to music. Amazing. So like you can see its influence on cinema, but because it's the original, it's always going to be, if you didn't see that at the beginning of your film journey, it's always going to be compared to things that are fundamentally better because they've improved on the recipe. So,
I'd love to know what they are. Pardon? I'd love to know what those films are, but yeah, continue.
Well, Dark Knight, Baby Driver is like some.
Baby Driver, like as much as I enjoy Baby Driver, it shouldn't even be in the same conversation as Heat.
No,
I think Edgar Wright would agree with that. But I do what you mean. The shootout is true. You're right.
Like if you're just comparing those two,
very
which
influenced.
I am in my brain.
Yep, I meant
it's
more
very
in terms
obviously
of,
influenced.
the quality of the movies.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's one of those, like, other directors and other films have taken pieces out of it to improve on. Like, nobody's taken the one recipe, they've taken elements. And because of that, it does have this weird Frankenstein-esque position in my head where bits of it are freaking great. Bits of it are not as great. I didn't care for the cocaine-addled performances. But then strangely I liked the character. Like when he isn't acting like he's on coke, I like it, and when he is acting like it, I'm just like, cool, now you're a bit of a caricature. But in this podcast you've explained that that's like a technique for interrogating informants, and so like it makes sense now. And it's one of those films where I think this has happened a couple of times where this has been my first proper viewing, and when I've watched it, it's been a very birdie film, and then in this conversation it's become more of like a better film.
That's great.
Sense.
I know exactly
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I like to hear that a lot.
Why,
like, that's
however,
exactly like. Sorry, I was just about to say. That's what exactly my hope is with the podcast. And sometimes I've had that with watching movies as well, where like you speak about it with your friends after you've watched the movie, and slowly you're like, oh, wait a minute, that seems good. And that was actually pretty genius. And hold a minute, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. And then like sometimes it takes time to like sit on things. I find.
Yes. Yeah. It's very much like on a 3 to. No, I want a higher scale. On a out of 10, I would have given it like a 7, and then over the course of this conversation, it's gone up to an 8, maybe even a 9, sort of thing.
Hey!
Oh, fantastic! Yes,
that's magnificent news.
Brilliant news.
Correct.
Maybe a 7.5. However, because of that roller coaster emotion, and because of the reasons I've given, for me, as I've done my film journey and have come to it quite late in that, in due course, it's too long. I don't care for long films. It's like I'd say it's a good 20, 30 minutes longer than I'd like. I think that because it is 70 roles and it is giving every character enough dialogue for you to understand who that character is, it's just added to the runtime. And it is one of those that it's that delicate balance of, yes, it could have been shorter, some bits could have been taken out, but then it wouldn't be the package we've got. It would have, like, certain elements wouldn't be as good. So like it's I get it that you can't take anything out, but also I want you to take something out.
Well,
and I hope we can still be friends, Sean.
No, we can still be friends. I think that movie. There is an hour 40 version of that movie, right? And it ends. I mean, it doesn't exist, but you could make it, and it ends right where at the end of the shootout, and instead of Chris and De Niro getting away, they both get killed, because it's you get or Chris just gets away, because then you get the exact same conclusion. But it's not as earned because you don't get all the character moments and the fallout of that. And I think that's ultimately why I really, really love this film. So that structurally, it follows a perfect structure, but it's a structure that's built entirely on your investment in the characters. And I think for me, that makes it a really rich text. I think it makes it one of the great American screenplays.
Definitely.
And it's also one of those movies. It's one of those movies where I think the movie is better than the script.
Yes, I could see that, and not like I've read the script, but like
I have.
In terms of what I said earlier, in terms of like the cinema aspect of it, like it's very operatic, and that's why I justify its 3-hour runtime. Like it feels like the sense that like how Leone brought to the Western that sense of operatic, that larger than life. does the same for like the crime heist movie for me. And I think that's why it justifies its 3 hour runtime, because you're like spending the time with these characters and you want to have this epic conclusion to this big build up that you've been given. But yeah, I guess long.
I'm glad that you. I'm glad that you enjoyed it though. I'm glad that this has been an opportunity for you to give it another go. And I actually think if you, I will suggest this. I think at a certain point in your life you're going to go, maybe I should watch that again, and I think you're going to enjoy it even more.
Yeah, I can definitely
and
see that happening.
That's the beauty of this. That's the beauty of this podcast. You know, like being able to come in and talk about things that you're passionate about. But not just. It's an opportunity to. You know, a lot of times when people speak, they're just waiting for their turn to speak. They're not listening to what's been said. And we kind of joke about that a little bit when, you know, we're like, I disagree with your review, or 1 star, you're 1 star, you know, whatever we say. But, you know, ultimately, I feel like this is a wonderful thing to have, to be able to have this discussion and listen, you know, not just wait for your turn to speak. So thank you boys for the opportunity to come on board and speak, but also as an opportunity to listen. I appreciate that.
No, thank you for coming on. And as a reward,
always a pleasure, for
your kindness for coming back, you want to plug where people can find you?
Yeah, sure. You can find me SG Films, Sean Grimsley Films. Type my name into Google. I'm the first one that comes up.
Hot damn.
So you need anything filmed, you need anything edited, you need any animations, or if you just like the look of me and want to buy me a cup of coffee, I can't come, but you know, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Nice little compliment.
Very nice. And Charlie, where can people find us if they so desire to do so?
Right, they can find us on YouTube, like they're watching us right now, unless you're listening. On YouTube, Your Favourite Film Is Awful. Or you can find us on Twitter at FabFilmIsAwful, Instagram Your Favourite Film Is Awful, and Facebook Your Favourite Film Is Awful. So yeah, send us a message, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Click the bell. You know what to do. Just go out there and do it.
And all that jazz. Exactly. It's been great. It's been lovely seeing you, Sean. Charlie, I see you all the time. It's always great to see you. But Sean, it's been lovely to see you.
It's been a pleasure, sir. Thanks for having me.
Listener, watcher, thank you for watching and listening. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Great ass!
What's your favorite? God, that's awful.
Favorite?
Awful. Awful.